Alright guys, Michael with Juggernaut Weld Fab. Today we are on part 2 of the Hammer Concepts Torque Box do-it-yourself kit. Adjustable Torque Box do-it-yourself kit. Again, I'm not trying to bash these guys, but this is not a do-it-yourself kit for just the everyday guy that's trying to do some badass shit with their Mustang. First off, it only comes with the actual adjustable brackets and the side plates. Now, it's up to you. You're gonna have to have 1 5/8 chromoly, about 30 inches of it. You're gonna need 1 1/8 chromoly, and you're gonna need about, I don't know, 30 inches of that. You're gonna need 1 1/2 chromoly. You're gonna need about 30 inches of that. And you're gonna need a tube bender and a tube notcher or somebody that can do that for you. That's why this is not a do-it-yourself kit. Now, thankfully, I had all the chromoly on the shelf, but I forgot that I don't have an 1 1/8, or actually 1 1/4 is what it's supposed to be. 1 1/4, not 1 1/8, but they sent me 1 1/8. So, and it fits, but it's a little sloppy on the ends, but it fits. But you're gonna have to have somebody that can either do this for you or be able to do it yourself. I didn't have 1 1/8 or 1 1/4 dies for my tube bender, so I had to contact them and ask them if, hey, can you guys bend up 2 90s and ship them to me because I don't have dies. And they're like, okay, well, I guess we can do that. And it was another $72. It was $50 for the tubing, and it was another 20 something for shipping. So that's a little irritating to me. Thankfully, they sent it to me, and they do sell a jig for this, that you can jig this up, because it is kind of a pain in the butt to jig up yourself. But what they don't tell you is that you've got to have their rear end jig table that bolts down to. Their rear end jig table is $3,000. So I've got a fixture table and I've got squares. So what I'm doing is I've got this side already tacked up, okay, and I've got it where I think it needs to be. Went ahead and tacked it up, and what I needed to do now with this side was to match that rotation on that plane, because these things wobble all over the place once you get them put together. You're gonna want to slide your 1 1/4 tubing through the bracket before you actually put it together, okay? You're gonna slide your 1 5/8 through the plates, get them, you know, stuck up with a magnet, a square, whatever, and then find out, take your tubing. I went ahead and notched this tubing at 45 degrees. I confirmed that their angle, it was actually 46 degrees with my protractor. So I notched it at actually 46 degrees. And I'll give you guys the length here in a little bit, but they sent them extra long, so that was nice, so that they actually fit. You've got a gusset plate that comes with the kit, and so that kind of lets you know how far in you need to be. I went ahead and I cut my 1 5/8 tubing to 28 7/8 because I measured the frame rails, and they're 29 in one spot, and they're like 28 3/4 as you get further back on the frame rail. So I kind of split the difference because I didn't want to go 29 and not be able to fit the thing up in there once I got it welded up. Now, like I said, I got this side tacked up, so I took an inclinometer and got my angle off of this bracket, which was 25.6 degrees, and I went ahead and matched that over here, rotated my tubing until I had the same angle, and my tubing is sitting flat and it is far enough in for this gusset to fit. I went ahead and measured and marked center on my 1 5/8 tubing, marked center on my gusset so that I know how far in these tubes need to be. Now that we've got our bracket at the same angle that our other one is, I'm going to go ahead and tack this up. But I wanted to show you guys what you're going to need to do, and without their jig table, you're going to want to get this right, because if your brackets are clocked, you're not going to have the same adjustment. Now, excuse how loud the water cooler is. It's going to be noisy. Kick on my gas. I've got my machine set on DC. I'm running an Edge number 10 stubby cup. I'm going to go ahead and freshen up my tungsten. Running 1/16 tungsten. That's a Piranha sharpener. It's pretty nice. I love that thing. So I am just running ER70 S6 filler. This is 045. I like to run the thinner filler rod on chromoly because these 1¼ inch, 1⅛. I measured these holes and they're 1¼ inch. The material they sent me is actually 1.20, so it's close to 1¼ inch, but slightly less. And this tubing is a little bit thinner than your 1 5/8. Your 1 5/8 is 083 wall. Your thinner stuff is 047. So you definitely want to run a 1/16 tungsten 045 filler rod. Now I want to look and make sure. I kind of had to rig stuff up for it to stay in place. But I want to make sure my tubing is sitting flush on both sides of the 1 5/8. Nice little tack there. Now this stuff does not fit up in this hole. The holes that they laser cut, it's probably 1/8 of an inch bigger around than it needs to be. So there's a huge gap there. So what I did was I pulled the tubing. I went ahead and stuffed a 1/16 tungsten in here to try to center it up. It fits super tight in the bracket, in the adjustable bracket, but it does not fit tight in the hole over here. Nice small tack there. You're going to want to make sure you have these plates straight in and out and squared up and down. Now I left this tubing a little long, and I'll trim that down with a grinder. Now we've got that all tacked up. I want to confirm before I weld anything completely. I want to confirm that we've got the same angle. Actually, it was 27.5, I'm sorry. That was the number I got off of this side. And again, you're still kind of guessing at it. I went ahead and laid the flat edges of the plate downward on my table to make it a little easier to square everything up. Now what I want to do is take this thing, stand it up, and make sure everything looks kosher. And it does. It looks like everything lines up. Now let's go ahead and take our center gusset. I shouldn't have shut the machine off yet. Like I said, their bends were like 46, so a little more than 46. Let's see. I've got this little tab magnet, which is awesome for roll cages, for mounting tabs. You can get that through Trick Tools. I really like their stuff. Pull that up. Now I want to get that gusset, like I said, centered up. Centered up on both sides of the tubing. My pedals hung up on something. I couldn't mash it down fully. Let's confirm that we are still centered on both pieces of tubing. Now, if you're welding next to a magnet, you're going to have a ton of arc stray. It's going to try to pull your arc. So, I want to take that magnet off. Like I said, it's really nice parts. I mean, their brackets and stuff are bitchin'. I really like them. But, you know, great. I guess it's great design, poor execution. Again, there's no video, no instructions, no nothing. So, you're gonna have to guess at it. Now, this is going to go in the car this way. This is going to be your driver's side. This is going to be your passenger side. Sorry about the air compressor. And like I said, I left these tubes a little long, just so that I could wiggle back and forth and make sure that gusset was lined up. And it looks like everything is lined up nice and straight. It looks good. So what I'll end up doing is getting all of this welded up. I'm going to show you guys what we've got here. Let me lay it like that so I can show you guys what it looks like. Pretty cool design, really cool design. But if you don't have all the parts and pieces and the equipment to do it, I mean, that's kind of a pain in the butt. Really nice brackets, really nice hardware, and a fly. Check out that fly. He likes it too. He's inspecting. We're gonna come through and we're gonna weld all this stuff up, okay? We're gonna go ahead and weld all these plates in. I'm gonna get my dimension off the side here, which they don't give you that either. You have no instruction on how far in you're gonna have to go. So I'll probably just tack these in until I get my rear end figured out, because I don't want to guess at it. I mean, it looks like theirs from the picture is like 2 inches maybe from here. And you definitely don't want to go too narrow. You don't want to go too wide, because then you're not going to line up on your rear end real well. I mean, we're going to be making our rear end and putting all of our 4-link plates on it anyway, so I mean, we can make it whatever we want. But if you're running a stock 8/8 rear end, you're going to want these to line up. That's why they're canted like that while they fold them on the brake. You're going to want those to line up with the spherical bushings on top of your 8/8. Now I'm going to go in here and I'll show you guys where this is going to fit up. Excuse all the mess. And these are the lowers, remember? And so I went ahead and got the tubing all bent up and notched for that as well. It takes a little bit of doing. Our lowers are going to go in here. This is one of the pieces of tubing that's 1.5 chromoly. And then our bent piece, I'll just show you guys real quick. Our bent piece is going to be coming in here, and they do give you a plate for the front of it. So you've got something like that. They provide that plate and a plate for over here, and then you've got a straight piece of tubing that fits up in the middle of that, and that's what your bracket attaches to. I went ahead and made a plate on the plasma table for this side just to stiffen it up, and now our uppers are going to go up in here. The assembly I just made or put together is going to go right up in here, follow that curve in the frame rail. We don't have hard dimensions, so we're going to put it where we think it fits, clean up those frame rails a little more, and fit that assembly up in there. Again, I would not completely weld that thing until you have fitted up in there and make sure it actually fits, because then you're going to be beating in these frame rails. We don't want to do that. Okay, cool beans. We got this thing all fit up in here. Now they did notch this bracket, and there's a notch in the frame right here that you're going to line it up with. That's the only alignment marks I see. And what I'm going to do, I just wanted to make sure it was going to fit in there. I did have to kind of beat it in there a little bit with a dead blow because it did fit tight, but that's what you want. You don't want this thing with a huge gap to where you're going to have to fill that, you know. Big old huge gap, you don't want that. So what we'll end up doing is taking it back out of there. We'll get these lined up where they need to be. We'll weld them up, weld everything, and then I think what I'm going to end up doing is powder coating it. I'll probably mask off these plates and powder coat the whole assembly, and then when we get our rear end in, when we fab that up, we will powder coat that to match. And like I said, these are your lowers. It started falling out of there when I was beating on it with a dead blow. But give me a few minutes. I'm going to get that fit up and we'll get it tacked and I'll show you the lowers. Okay, so these are the plates for the lower torque boxes that they send. You have these two, this one, and I'm assuming all this because there are no instructions. It also comes with these, which I'm assuming are stiffeners, right? For that, that's makes sense. And then stiffeners for the uppers. The Heims don't come with it. That's just my junk. So now, when this thing's sitting in the vehicle, I have it upside down right now. But what's going to happen is this tubing is, oh, this is the wrong tube. I already have one bent and cut for it. But this tubing is going to weld here. And then this piece of tubing is going to be in between that. Actually, it goes this way. It's going to be in between that. Let me get the tripod. All right, so at this point, this has been pretty difficult, okay? What I had to do was I took my 1.5" chromoly, which I had, 1.5" chromoly here, which I had. I went ahead and bent a 45-degree angle, okay? And then again, in their picture, I'm just guessing at where this tube needs to lie. So what I'm doing right now is I measured from here to the edge and from here to the edge to make sure that these are nice and flat and even, level when we put it up in there. This little plate here, I need to clock it some, but no worries. Our fit up is nice. This tube was the one that was a pain in the ass to notch because the further you come in, you get into this bend, so it's no longer a 90, right? So that was kind of a pain in the butt. So that's something to watch out for. I'm gonna try to tack this thing up without tapping it and losing what I have. See if I can rest my hand. Okay. Tiny little tack there. See here where I've got my notch. I'm going to give you guys these dimensions as well. Weld to the bottom side. Now, I will not weld anything in. I'm not going to weld these brackets. These are the brackets you weld. You can weld inside here if you want to get real fancy. I'll probably weld around the outside. Weld all that up. I've got this hole. Well, actually, there's a hole on the back side. I've got that hole lined up with where the center of the factory control arm mounted. Looks like we can go up in the front a little bit. So we'll take and push that up a little bit in the front. Should be good to go. So that is your lower torque box on your Hammer Concepts adjustable torque box kit. It was a lot of work. A lot of work, and like I said, I ended up having to get a hold of them just to get this tubing because I didn't have that size of die. So now, this obviously isn't tacked. That needs to go up there. But that's your upper torque boxes, which it's a cool ass unit. It looks good. But man, for a do-it-yourself, I don't feel like that's a do-it-yourself kit. Just my opinion. But the normal, just everyday Joe that orders this kit thinking, oh man, that's badass, I'm gonna do this and kick everybody's butt on the track. You might ought to call your buddy that can weld, because everybody's got a buddy that can weld, and see if he can help you out with this. Get back here. BTR, Brian Tooley Racing, those guys are the best in the game. You need LS parts, you need pistons, you need forged cranks, badass intakes, anything. You better call Paul. Yeah, BrianTooleyRacing.com. There's their phone number. Hit those guys up if you want to go fast. Call Paul. He is a great guy. He'll get you hooked up with what you need. I'm Michael, Juggernaut Weld Fab. Thank you guys for watching. I know I talk a lot and sometimes it gets confusing, but hopefully this will help you in the future if you are looking to install this kit, because there are no videos out there for it. Hope you guys have a blessed day. Hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, all those, TikTok, anything. You guys can hit me up if you have questions. You check out my other videos, subscribe to our YouTube, support us in any way you can. Thanks.